Hey, good evening, everybody, and welcome to whatever this ends up being called. I don't know. Used to be Pop Go the Writers, and it might become that again if I find someone I want to chat with on every Sunday night and is a writer and we can look at things from a writer perspective. If I get a co host who isn't a writer, then maybe I'll do something different, or maybe I'll just come on Sunday nights and give you an update on what I'm doing and rant about the latest things having to do with comics and pop culture and, you know, that stuff. So, again, kind of a work in progress right now. That's what we'll call it. It's a work in progress. So, but let me start off with I want to thank Jay and Ed. Last week on Wednesday night, they had me on a podcast, and that was an absolute blast. Ed is a regular here and on every show that I've done. He's just been a great supporter, and it was nice to talk to him face to face. Jay and I used to work together at the Experience. He still works there, and I think and the show itself was on the Experience, so that was really nice getting to chat with them for a bit. I'm still figuring out what I'm doing broadcast wise, but hey, Ed, just talking about you. But I am going to be doing these Sunday night shows more, and probably because there's a lot of things I have to say, a lot of things I want to talk about. And this is pretty much my only forum right now, at least it is for now. We'll see what happens. Maybe I'll try to pop up on some other people's podcasts as well. But for now, we'll get Sunday nights going again and see where that goes from there. All right, so I got things I want to talk about today. I even made a list because I'm that kind of guy. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 topics plus some things to tell you guys about, remind you of. But we'll do all those as we go on. Let's go ahead and kick it off about a topic that I know Ed's going to enjoy. The third season of Reacher. If you're not watching Reacher on Amazon or Prime or whatever we call their streaming service, you're missing out. Now, I saw this amazing review of it on TikTok. And as you listened to the review, it sounded like he was not liking it because he talked about it being derivative and not very complex, and the characters were pretty basic. And as he talked about it, you realize that this was the show he liked. And he said that it is all those things and it's awesome. Because sometimes you just want a show about big guys fighting big guys and the bad guys getting punched in the face. And I'm like, yeah. And the idea is that the creators of Reacher have taken the book and hugged it tightly and are making Lee Child's vision come to life. Now, they're doing some tweaks on it here and there. And those I'm actually going to address in a minute, but overall, they're keeping to it as truthful as possible. Now, we did have the 2 Reacher movies or Jack Reacher movies with Tom Cruise. And while I do enjoy a lot of Tom Cruise's movies, and there was some enjoyable things about the Jack Reacher movies, but overall, he didn't feel like the Reacher from the novels. Tom Cruise's Jack Reacher felt like a very well-trained, capable man that had confidence, had experience, and dealt with every situation because he's dealt with every situation. You know, he's He knows what to do and how to handle himself. And those were fun for that, but that's not the character of Jack Reacher. Jack Reacher is a force of nature. He is a rolling thunderstorm. He is a freight train. If he's got a destination in mind and you're in the way, you're going to get run over. And it's a very interesting character to follow. It's an old pulp type character. I mean, that's how I would describe Sam Spade, as a force of nature. He's not the cleverest or any of those things, but he gets the job done. And Jack is that way. Yeah. This particular episode, Ed just pointed out Paulie. Paulie is Oliver Richers, Olivier Richers, that's his name, is freaking huge. And now, first thing, Alan Ritchson looks big. He's got the stature, the build, but he's not as tall as he might appear to be. He's like 6'2", maybe 6'3". Jack is supposed to be taller than that, and then Paulie is supposed to be bigger than Reacher. So the fact that they found this huge guy to play Paulie is awesome. And they're setting it up well, and I love that Anthony Michael Hall is playing the rug importer. That's neat to see him. But the big thing is that I noticed the differences in the book is there is a major character in the book that is just gone from the TV show. And that is Richard's mother. Richard's mother is kind of the counterbalance to the dad. The dad is kind of hands off, just throw money at it. And the mom is a little overly protective type of thing. And it makes a neat balance. But with that character came a subplot of things that Paulie would make her do, which could send some trigger warnings and stuff. So the fact they wrote that out is interesting, but I can understand it too. You know, when the books come out, they have a specific audience, but the TV show tries to play to a larger audience. So something that is normal for the genre, we're going to show how bad this guy is because of the way he treats women, and then we'll get him in the end for it. That's a genre staple. But on a TV show, it could make certain viewers uncomfortable. And I could see that happening on this particular thing. So I get why they changed that, though. It's interesting. They kind of added a second housekeeper. The housekeeper compared to the chef. That they were kind of one and the same in the book. So it's interesting that that's separated now. There's a few other things they did to kind of pare it down a bit. I'm trying to remember what the other thing was. Oh, Teresa, the CI in the book is actually an actual undercover agent. So I'm not sure why that changed, but that's all right. So that's my thoughts. What they've done so far, though, with the book, they've established Paulie. They established all the characters really well. I like the casting, and I look forward to see how all this is going to play out. And yeah, I really can't wait to see the fight with Paulie. Now, I have read the book. That's kind of what I do. Is I've read Reacher before. I've read a handful of the books. But when they announced the book, the new season is going to adapt, I either listen to it or re-listen to it so that it's kind of, fresh in my brain. So when I can do a show like this, I can talk about the differences, because there are going to be some people who read the books and don't watch the show, but are kind of curious. And it's going to be the other way around too. The people who see the show and they go, should I check these books out? Now, if you liked the, I started reading them after the Tom Cruise movies. So it was kind of a shock because how different they were, but I still enjoyed them. So if you're watching them after Tom Cruise, there is a difference in the character and a lot of the stuff. If you're picking up the books after watching the TV series with Alan Richson, it's smooth. They're definitely adapting it really close. It's like James Bond. If you go back to the old Bond novels and all of your experience is Pierce Brosnan or Roger Moore, or Timothy Dalton, then you're going to be like, oh my God, that guy's kind of a relic. But if you are more familiar with Sean Connery or George Lazenby, or even in some ways Daniel Craig, then it fits better to the novels. So it says the one scene with Reacher in the motel, why did he put the do not disturb sign in front of the peephole? Okay. I noticed that too. What it is that if somebody is, it's an old mob trip or mafia trick. If you want to kill somebody, what you do is you knock on the door. They don't necessarily need to open it because the doors in hotel rooms are really thin. So you can shoot through the door. And how you know that somebody is standing by the door is they're looking through the peephole. And what happens is if you're on one side of the door, there's light coming through the peephole to the outside from the inside. So if somebody walks up, puts their eye on the window or, to the peephole, it's going to block the light. You know someone's there, you can shoot. What Reacher did was he stepped to the side, put the do not disturb sign up there to cause a shadow and to block the light. That way, if somebody was out there and going to start shooting, they're going to start shooting at that and not hit them. So I actually had I explained that to Lisa when that aired, and she looked at me, she goes, why do you know these things? I told her I can't tell you. And I moved on. All right. So Reacher, loving it. Looking forward to the next episodes. Just really excited for it. But I love that show. And Lisa likes it as much as I do, which is a blast. She might like it for the scenes like him coming out of the water in his underwear and walking along the street. She might like that scene a little more, where I like, him causing Paulie to punch himself in the face a little more. But, we're both good for the show. The 3 episodes were really strong. I'm glad they did all 3 because it really gets you into the story. It's a slow starting story, especially with the way the first episode is kind of a bait and switch. So you kind of needed the couple extra episodes, because if you're not a big time Reacher reader, then that first episode seems really weird. But you're like, okay, like if that's the first you've ever watched Reacher, you're getting a very odd version of Reacher. Now, if you are a Reacher fan or understand the character well and you watch that first episode, you're like, something's up. There's something not. This is not Reacher's normal. So, yeah. So, your wife loves Reacher too. We watch it. Yep. Yeah, Lisa was very excited when Reacher came back. She's also into like and we're watching Paradise together. We watch a lot of reality stuff like Next Level Chef. Tonight we're going to watch the Tournament of Champions on Food Network. So I have a feeling it's not drugs being imported. I think it's going to be sex trafficking. They give you a clue in the third episode on what it is, at least what it is in the books, when the kid's talking about his dad. Just saying. And they give you another clue later on. So there's a couple things that have already been given to give you a hint on what's actually happening. All right, so let's move on. There was a report this week that Marvel was pausing Nova, Strange Academy, and Terror Inc. As these were television shows in production, and they're pausing it. Now, that's getting a lot of misinterpretation. When they say they're pausing something, they don't necessarily mean they're canceling it, because they've changed how they work. How they used to do television was the same way they did the movies. They basically worked out, okay, we're going to do a Captain America movie, and then a Thor movie, then an Iron Man movie, and then we'll do Avengers, and then we'll do another Cap, another Thor, another Iron Man, and then we'll put in Ant-Man, or put in this character and that character. And they plot it all out. And then they make those movies happen. And they were doing that for TV shows too. But the problem is that's not really a good way to do television. Television is more of a trial and error type thing. You know, somebody comes along and says, I have an idea. They're like, okay, run with that. Get to the point where you have a pitch and a show Bible. Okay. And they'll go off and they'll put the pitch together and they'll put the show Bible together. And if you're not familiar with the show Bible, that's basically a reference guide that'll tell you the characters, their motivations, their backstories, all the stuff that a writer's room would need to move forward. All the detail stuff. You know, oh, he comes from this planet. He's got these powers. This is how he got his powers. That's the show Bible. This character is a supporting character. This is their backstory, blah, blah, blah. If it's Nova, then you put in who the Nova Corps are, what their current status is, how the power goes to Richard Rider or whoever gets it at that point, if it's Sam. That's what the show Bible is. And you would put that together. And then once they got that, they'll go, okay, we've got something here. Let's move on to the next step and put together a pilot. Or they'll say, you know, this isn't quite what we're thinking. Do you want to rework it? Or thank you, and they hand it to somebody else and they go, here, you rework it. Or they decide, you know what, this wasn't a good idea. So you got all those options right there. But when they say they're pausing it, what that most likely means is that where Nova would fit into the overall story isn't quite needed right now. Either it doesn't work, or what they were going to do with them isn't going to work, or maybe they'll introduce him somewhere else and then come over and do his story. But right now, let's just go ahead and put this on hold. And that's what they've done with those stories. Nova, of course, is Richard Rider. He's kind of the 70s version of Spider-Man that Marvel did. Marvel does it every about 10 years, is they'll create a new character that is pretty much a carbon copy of Spider-Man to see if they can catch lightning again. So Darkhawk was another version. Young person gets superpowers suddenly and great responsibility, blah, blah, blah. I know there's others. I think Gravity is another one. But that's the key to it. I think Miles Morales technically counts as one as well. So that was Nova in the 70s. And he's been around. We saw the Nova Corps in the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. We know that planet's mostly destroyed. So it makes sense that the ability of Nova Prime would go out to somebody a la Green Lantern searching for a ring. So there's a lot there to work with. Strange Academy was going to be a bunch of young sorcerers being trained by Wong. And again, that could still happen too, but it could be that they have so many things for Benedict Wong to do in the upcoming stuff that putting together a TV series doesn't work. Maybe they're realizing, they're going to do the Harry Potter stuff over again. That's too close. There's a lot of reasons they could have put it on pause. Again, doesn't mean it's canceled. And Terror Inc. Wow, I was blown up. I don't know anybody who had that on their radar that they were doing something with Terror Inc. And this was a 90s horror series about a guy who he's just this monster like guy who, if he gets his arms cut off, he can attach other people's arms. And it was a very strange character. The book came out around the same time they started doing Dakota North, stuff like that for Marvel. So I'm stunned that they were doing that. Unless they were going to go into the animated realm, I don't know. Now, on the flip side, what we're hearing is that going forward, they want to look at series with the possibility of having multiple seasons. And according to Brad Winderbaum, and that's a lot of this information comes from Brad Winderbaum, who is kind of the Kevin Feige for the television stuff. And he said that they're now looking into Hawkeye 2 and Agatha 2. Now, when they say that, what they mean is that it's going to be, they're going to basically develop it. They're going to look at the possibilities. So with Agatha 2, they thought, okay, well, where did we leave Agatha off? What do we want to do with it? Okay, maybe it becomes Wiccan. Maybe the series becomes Wiccan. Jack Schaefer said she doesn't want to come back and do a second season, but maybe she'd come back and do a season focused on Wiccan, and it's kind of a spiritual Agatha 2. With Hawkeye 2, there's been rumors of that for a long time. They wanted to do something like The Raid, where it all takes place in one building at one time. And it's probably been on the back burner for a long time because of Jeremy Renner's health. He got run over by a snowplow. He was jacked up for a long time. Now he's getting back. So maybe he's up and ready to do it now. We'll have to see. But again, just by saying that they're developing these things doesn't mean it's going to happen. It's not a commitment that it's going to happen. It's not on a schedule anywhere. And it could be paused. It could be canceled. It could be not shopped, but, given to other people. That's how television works. So take all of these rumors with a grain of salt, because even if they're 100% accurate that they're developing a certain series, it doesn't mean we're going to see it, because it's a long development process. So, okay, let's move on. There was a picture that hit the internet the other day, and it freaked everybody out. It's a picture of James Gunn and Zack Snyder standing together, and of course, all the rumor mills went, "Oh my God, they're merging the two," or "He's coming back to do a Batman movie," or nobody officially knows what they're doing, why they were together, but there is a consistent rumor across all of the scoopers that there is an announcement coming, and it might be something like the original announcement that we got the Superman movie and Batman Brave and the Bold and stuff like that, kind of a state of the studio announcement where we'll find out more, like, okay, so who's the director that's going to be doing Clayface? Why are we doing Clayface? What's happening with Batman the Brave and the Bold? What's happening with Swamp Thing? Stuff like that, and maybe announce some other movies. Maybe Zack Snyder got brought in to do a specific movie, They've been wanting to do The Authority, and while I'm not a big fan of what Zack did with some of the stuff in the DCEU, some of it was really good, and I think he could tackle a book like The Authority and do it pretty well. So that's going to be interesting to see. Now, they're saying that it could be as soon as Monday or early next week that we're going to get something out of DC Studios. We'll see if that comes true, and if so, what that news is. All right. I've been watching trailers and stuff like that, and I have two stray thoughts on upcoming Marvel projects. One of them is the Thunderbolts. And everybody says that the congressional hearing in the beginning, everybody seems to think that that's for her to be able to put the team together, to pull in all those players. And I don't think that's what it is. I don't think she is talking to Congress about the Thunderbolts. I think she's in there talking about the Sentry. I think, this is my speculation again, just speculation. I'm not saying this is what they're doing. This is just what I am interpreting from what I'm seeing. I think that she put the group together in the beginning to get Bob out, to awaken the Sentry, because there is no Avengers, because there's no one to protect America. That is why I think Valentina wants to get use of the Sentry, who has probably been hidden in that bunker for centuries. And nobody remembers him, but she does. And when it starts to come out, she has to answer questions. And I think Bucky is going to be one of the few people that actually remembers the Sentry, because of all the brainwashing and stuff, resetting they did. When he finally got his memories back, he got memories of the Sentry back as well. So I don't think I don't think they're the Dark Avengers or anything like that. I think they're supposed to be cannon fodder. I don't think that they're supposed to come out alive. I think somehow they do, but they were supposed to, and we're pretty sure one of them doesn't. Taskmaster only shows up in like one scene in all the trailers, other than they digitally imprint her on the scene in the tower, but it's like one glimpse. Every other angle, she's not there. So I think this team is sent in individually to kill Bob, knowing that it will trigger his abilities and most likely wipe out the team, that he'll kill everybody on the team. But I don't think they know of the Void. I don't think they know of the split personality. I think Valentina discovers that this character exists and she wants to use it as a pawn to have power over other nations and stuff. And that's why Bucky gets involved, because he's the one that remembers why the Sentry was taken down, why the Void, or about the Void. And I think that's the plot of the movie. I think he's the only one that remembers, and he pulls that team together to stop him. So that's my thought on that, because it makes more sense to me than, she's trying to get the Sentry on the team. Because why would you put that team together? Red Guardian has nothing to do with it. John Walker, these were all basically disposable assets. These were pawns on Valentina's chessboard, and now she's trying to get the king. I always like Bob, all these creative comic names, and poor Bob. Yeah, I love Bob. Bob is awesome. I also like the poster with the asterisks, and each member's team is on one leg of the asterisk, or the octothorpe, if you know your history. And there's Bob's head sticking in, like, yay. So, all right. So that's my thought on Thunderbolts. Shifting to a theory I have on Daredevil Born Again. Since this was announced, and since there's been the casting of Michael Gandolfini, the son of James Gandolfini, the guy that played Tony Soprano. Now, Michael plays somebody. We don't know who. There's been speculation that he might play a young Fisk. There's been speculation that he could be Richard Fisk. But there was a rumor today that normally I would just go, eh. But the rumor is that Gandolfini is playing a character who is like an apprentice to Kingpin. Someone he's taken in under his wing. Now, Kingpin has done this before. He killed Echo's father and then took her in and raised her like his own. So I could see him taking Gandolfini's character under his wing after perhaps he's killed the guy's father. This made me remember a theory I had back when the Netflix show was on. And the theory was that Bob Gunton played Leland Owlsley. And Leland Owlsley, of course, is the character, the owl from Daredevil comics, one of Daredevil's early villains, and a great villain. Well, they had this older guy playing him, and I thought, well, that's kind of weird. But then there's these references in it to his son, Lee Owlsley. And Lee, of course, being short for Leland. So there's a good chance he's Leland Owlsley Jr. And I think that's who Gandolfini may be playing. He might be playing the son of the character from Netflix season 1 that Kingpin killed, and he might end up becoming the owl. And if you look at Gandolfini, Michael Gandolfini, you look at his face and stuff, you're like, yeah, he kind of looks like the character. I could see it. So that's just my wild ass speculation. I don't have the little donkey sound anymore. I need to get that. Anyway, so that's my idea, is that I think that he's going to end up, it would make sense if he ends up being the owl, because then we have another character. I hope Bullseye gets a new tactical suit. Yeah, I love the fact that they brought back the same actor. I thought he did great in season 3. I'm looking forward to seeing where the character goes, but his suit is a little too, I don't know, boring. I want him to have more of the Bullseye suit. So, yeah, I agree with you, Krypton. Good one, Ed. Ooh, is Gandolfini playing? Okay. All right, let's shift gears over to Captain America: Brave New World. And the reason I'm thinking of this, because online reaction doesn't make sense anymore. It just doesn't. Okay? Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania came out, and it was horrible according to everybody online. I've seen it. I actually liked it. There were things about it I thought were really good. There were some little parts, but overall, I thought it was a decent movie. Captain America: Brave New World comes out, and I'm hearing people online saying they liked it, but all of the reviewers, all of the the paid for people, all seem to think it was bad. Now, it's doing well in the theaters still. It did, 100 million opening weekend. It's now up to like 141 as of today. And that's just domestically. It's doing well overseas too. It's going to get to like 4, maybe 5 million, which is going to bring, give its money back. And that's going to be fine for a Marvel movie. It's just, we compare everything now to Endgame and, these billion-dollar Avenger movies, and they're not all billion-dollar Avengers movies. So 400 or 500 million, that's reasonable. Now, the thing, though, that confuses me is you look on Rotten Tomatoes, and they're an aggregate site, so that's what they're good for. They'll take all of the paid reviewers and all of the paying reviewers, and that's what I like to call them. The critics are the paid people. They're paid to go see a movie. The paying people go see the movies they want to see, and then they tell you about it. Critics go see the movies that are come out. So it may not even be a movie they necessarily want. So I personally always skew towards the audience score over the critic score. That said, the critic score on Captain America Brave New World is a 49%. The audience score, or popcorn meter, I think they call it now, is 80%. So 80% of the audience who are paying to go see it like it and enjoy it. Half the people that are being paid to go see it didn't like it so much. Now think about that for a second. Let's see. Krypton says his suit looks like something out of a thrift store. I don't have a problem with the suit. I don't. I think the darker one looks better than the white one, but I haven't had a chance to see it on the big screen yet. I'm going to do that this week. I didn't see the movie, nor did I care. They should have done a Hulk sequel with Bruce Banner, Betty Ross, and Thunderbolt Ross. Krypton, they can't do a Hulk sequel. They cannot put out a movie called or in any way having the name Hulk in the title, or they have to pay Universal to distribute it. Universal has to distribute it. It's still that part of the rights deal. They can put Hulk into any movie they want. They can have him guest, but they cannot make a Hulk movie. Therefore, they have to control how much Hulk is in the movie and the title of the movie. So there is a limitation why they didn't do that. The reason is because the writers worked on Brave New World. They were like 4 writers, and they can create problems with a cohesive story. Yeah, that can. And there can also be things like suddenly a war in Israel and split the country between Israel and Palestine when you have a major Israeli character and you're dealing with a plot line that involves a president turning evil, turning into a monster, and you get a new president. I mean, there's a lot of things that they needed to change. It sounds like early drafts were a little more comic booky, and they wanted to go a little more political thriller. So that's why Seth Rollins and Copperhead and Diamondback were taken out, and Sidewinder was put in and played by Giancarlo Esposito. I always call it Esposito, but he's got a different way of pronouncing it. Esposito. Anyway, because he was a more grounded character. So there were a lot of reasons to change it. And the leader's head looks like his design even took a great change. But that's the way Marvel has been working, and sometimes it works fantastic, and sometimes it flops, and they've been having good and bad. Like I said, 80% of the people who have paid to go see the movie seem to like it. Now, why I'm having an issue with the online stuff is Quantumania. Quantumania has a similar score as Captain America Brave New World. Similar in that it's inverse. The critics give it an 82 and the fans give it a 46. So 82% of the people paid to go see the movie liked it. But 46% of the people that actually paid to see the movie did, or 54% didn't. So are they both bad movies? How do you judge? Well, I think the honest answer to that is you see it for yourself. I think you could take a snippet out of anything and make it look good, or a snippet out of anything and make it look bad. When you sit down and you watch the whole 2-hour movie or however long it is, then you make the judgment on the whole thing. So these online reviews and aggregate scores and stuff, I'm having less and less faith in them because of it. Like I said, do you guys think that Captain America, that the 80% of the people that paid to go see it are wrong that it's not a good movie? That they didn't, that they shouldn't have enjoyed it? Or were the critics right? And vice versa on Ant-Man. What did the critics see in Ant-Man that 54% of the audience didn't. Do you see that? It used to be the critics would go out and look at movies, and most of the time people watched the critics shows like Siskel and Ebert, not necessarily to see the review, but to see the trailer. And then if the review was positive and it was a movie they liked, it was great. And if it was negative and it was a movie they liked, they went, they're just critics. I'll go see it myself. And nowadays, we put so much into a popularity contests and opinions that I think we're missing out on movies that are great or good. And I think Marvel did such an amazing job with Endgame that everybody expects that to be the minimum. You know, when I was younger, I used to bowl every Friday night. I would average about a 170. On a good night, I get into a 180, and on a great night, I might pop into 191, 192. That was when I was really just hitting my mark. And I was happy with that. That was awesome. And I could see improvement. And then there was one night, I don't know if it was water, if it's what I had for dinner, if it was an angel was behind me. I bowled the best game I've ever bowled. And it wasn't like, oh, I broke 200. Oh, I broke 210. So it wasn't like it was 20 points above my average or even 20 points above my best. I bowled a 241. I bowled 50 points above my previous best. I got so stressed and tense about it. Other people were coming from the other lanes to look and see how I was doing because I was on a streak, early on. And then I finally fumbled and pulled together to get the 241. Well, I went back the next week to bowl, and my 185 just didn't seem good. My 170 didn't seem good anymore, because I had eclipsed it by so much, but it was just the right everything. Things just clicked perfectly. And maybe I could do that again sometime, but I wouldn't be able to do it regularly. And I think that's where we're at now with Marvel movies, is that we're expecting the 241 as the norm now. We're expecting Endgame, we're expecting the best every time, but and we glamorize the past movies. And we do that with even the bad ones. Iron Man 1 was awesome. Iron Man 2 was okay. Iron Man 3 was not that good, but we look back at them now in a higher regard. The first Thor, second Thor, oh my God. But now we look back at the second Thor and think it's much better than Love and Thunder. Other movies, people go back like, that Hulk movie, that was better than we thought it was. And it's because, every time you set the bar, if you don't quite hit that on the next one, people assume you failed, but they're still better than a lot of movies that come out. I mean, Captain America Brave New World, Wonder Woman 1984. Which would you rather see? You're on a flight across the country. Those are your two movie options. Which one are you picking? Now, I know someone's going to say, oh, I'll just read a book. I brought a magazine. I'll do the air I'll play the games on the thing. No. You're going to pick a movie because it's a long flight. And you're going to pick Brave New World because it's a better movie than 1984. Just is. And that's the thing, is that it could be the worst Marvel movie. And there are some candidates for the worst Marvel movies, but they're still better than a lot of the stuff out there. So if we're just going to compare, if we compare our entire life based on the best day, we're going to have a lot of bad days. All right, let's move on. Bond, James Bond. Huge surprise announcement the other day. Up until now, when MGM was bought out by Amazon, everybody assumed that they were going to start doing like TV shows and spinoffs and all this other stuff. And the people that owned Bond, the Broccoli's, they were like, no. We have a way we do these. We're going to do these. This is how we're going to do it. And it was kind of flew in the face of what Amazon wanted to do. And then Friday, an announcement came out and said, the previous producers on the James Bond stuff, the Barbara Broccoli and this other guy is retiring, and she's going to take a step back and focus on other projects. And Amazon is going to be taking over control. And there's a note in there about $1 billion going somewhere. So Bezos decided that he didn't have enough control and wrote a bigger check, which means that the James Bond stuff is likely to start moving much faster now. We will probably get an announcement of a Bond within 6 months, if not sooner. And don't be surprised for television series and spin-offs and stuff like that, because it only makes sense. I've been talking about this for a long time. You have James Bond, and there's a lot of people like, we need a black James Bond. We need a female James Bond. And my attitude about that is very simply, no. James Bond is a particular mix of stereotypes and things that he grew up with. He's a bit of a chauvinist. He's a bit of all these things that is purely white male. And he should stay that, because that's the character that Ian Fleming created. Now, that said, there is so much room to grow and allow other characters to step up. You have possibility of a bunch of different 00s. There's no other active 00 that we follow. So who's to say they can't make an African or a black 00, 008? What about 003 being a young female? What about, there's a ton of possibilities they can do, and they could start making these movies at a faster pace. So you have James Bond, and you have the MI6 universe and Q and M, and you expand it, okay? And Jeff Bezos put online, he said, who would you cast as James Bond? And I wrote him, I said, I've got actually an idea who I'd cast and what I would do with the property if you're looking for pitches. And then later on I posted, I said, all right, I would pick Alex Pettifor. I would pick him because he's 34 years old. He's got the jawline of James Bond and the acting ability to pull this off. I think he would be good, and you'd get 10, 15, maybe even 20 years out of him before he gets a little too old to do them anymore and wants to quit. So you're going to get 3, 4, 5 movies out of him, which is what you want out of a James Bond. But you make the first Bond movie a terrorist cell destroys MI6, wipes them out, just goes in. Obviously, it's an inside job. A double O is turned and gets wiped out. Except M gets taken, and they're taking M to get information out of him. Him or whoever we have him playing M. Now, the only people that are left, you have James, who is on assignment, comes back and discovers what's going on, and finds the clue that M is still alive. There's a recently retired double O that he pulls back into the game. And you could make this Idris Elba. You could make this a lot of these people that are older that you want to see in a James Bond movie, but you're only going to get one or two Bonds out of them. So make that this character. And then you give him his own name, his own 00 number, and you reactivate him. And then you go to the academy where these guys are being trained, wherever that is, and you pull 2 raw recruits, and you don't make them 00s, but you make them the best in the class that are still around, whatever, and you throw them in, and that's your team that's going up against this force that has M. And the goal isn't necessarily to rescue M, it's to keep M from giving information. So it's either rescue or eliminate. And that is your rebuilding. And from it, you get a new M, you get a new Q, you can create a new headquarters, you get a returned agent who's going to stick around long enough until the agency gets built back up, and you have an older actor playing a 00. You have your new Bond. You get at least one of the 2 kids gets their 2 kills and their 00. The other one you probably kill. And you let the mystery of the turncoat 00 linger. You don't find that out. So you have a trail to follow, and you could follow it in any of the multiple stories. You can do another with the older 00. You can do more Bond movies. You can do movies with the young agent. You could go back and focus on MI5 and the rebuilding. You can also focus on the academy where these guys are coming out of. You have this whole expanded universe coming out of one movie. That's what I would do with Bond if I was Jeff Bezos. Actually, I would pay a lot of people to do that. I'd write it, but I'd pay a lot of people because Jeff Bezos has a lot of money. So, yeah, that's my idea there. Aaron Taylor Johnson's not a bad idea for Bond either. I just liked Alex Pettifor because he's less recognizable. And I think what I liked about Daniel Craig is that when I first saw him on the screen, he was James Bond. I love Pierce Brosnan. I loved those Bond movies. But when he was first on the screen in the James Bond movie, he was Remington Steele to me. Roger Moore was the Saint. When you get somebody who you recognize from something else, that comes with it, and it's hard to shake that. So sometimes it's easier. Daniel Craig didn't have any of that baggage because there really he was not a face of a franchise, So that's the only reason I was thinking more of somebody like Alex Pettifor, because I know he can do a good job and he's unknown enough to get away with it. All right. So let me do a couple bits of business here. There is a new book out. It's called Blythe, The Trailer Park Night Rises. It's available on Amazon in both print and digital. You can find it at this link here. I would appreciate it, that didn't pop up on Facebook, so I'll put that in the chat line on Facebook when we're done. I would appreciate if you do read the book if you could leave a review, because the reviews are what drives the cycle over there. So even a 2-word review of "I liked it," that's 3 words, or no typos, anything that helps to get the book showed around more. If you are a fan of my comics and you don't like more of an adult twist, there's a Kickstarter right now for the 2nd issue of the Crimson Sails book that is about female pirates through Ethereal, and it's a pretty sexy book. So this is not the one you read with your children. This is more of a karma book. It's actually probably a little racier than karma too. So, and then finally, remember that I've got Obsidian Moon going on. That is in process. I gave an update online. I said I had Morgana 2 script to finish. It's turned in and done. I had an essay for Jim Beard to do. That is now turned in, which means I am moving on to Chaos Game, the official start of Obsidian Moon. That should take me a month, maybe 2 to write. And in that time, I got to figure out if they're just going to go up on Amazon, if I'm going to do a Kickstarter. I will give you all the details. The best way to keep track is through the mailing list, which I will not flood you guys with. There will not be a ton of stuff. So far, since I started, I don't think I've even put a mailer out. So there will be one coming soon, but that's the mailer list for that. So if you haven't signed up, please do so. And I did want to give you an idea. When we did the initial Obsidian Moon launch, I talked about there was an older book called Bloodlust that it was one of the first comics I published. In 96, I did a book called Creepers. In 1999, I did Bloodlust, and that was through my own company, Hardline Studios. It went through Diamond, the whole thing. We had a cover by Deadpool artist Walter McDaniel. The interiors were by a good friend of mine, Bobby Breed. I did the black and white coloring in there. I did the lettering. And we did 2 issues of that. The 2nd issue actually had Tim Vigil cover. That's my job, Dustin. But Bloodlust was a book that was very 90s. It was a vampire who was different than other vampires, was trying to hide from the other vampires. Basically, didn't want them to know that he was one. And he figured there was things that he would do naturally that would make him stand out. So instead of trying to curtail those things, what he did was he started a metal band and claimed that he was a vampire. Basically, like Kiss, or nowadays Slipknot, where they have the act and stuff. So he figured people would assume it was all an act, and that would be all that it needed. And this book took off from there, and that was the basis for it. Other people would join the band. There was other supernatural characters would show up, stuff like that. But I admit that's a 90s feel, and that feels very dated to me now. And maybe it's because I worked on it 30 years ago, but I'm reworking it, bringing it into the modern age. Instead of a metal person like that, they're going to be a social media person. It's going to be the type of person that, sings on TikTok and stuff like that. And it'll come out that he's a vampire, and the video will go viral, and he'll become this overnight sensation, and he'll then be assigned, a manager and a bodyguard and all this other stuff. So it'll be done from a modern take. And there's a good chance, as of right now, the book is going to change names. Bloodlust made sense then. That was the name of the metal band. Doesn't make sense now. But the way I do vampirism in my writings anyway, the book is going to be called Viral. So ties into the video thing, and it's going to tie into the vampirism thing. So that's the latest update on that. I will be starting on Chaos Game this week. I've got the first 10 chapters already planned out. I write a third at a time, a third of a book at a time. I do Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. And I always just break down one act at a time, knowing what my end result is. But I do that so that the characters in the book can expand as they need to. If there's a natural change that happens, a direction shift, a character change, anything like that, I don't want to be so rigid that I can't let the book feel natural, to naturally go where it's going to go. So what I do is I write the first arc or the first act. And when I get to the end, then I think, okay, well, this is where I need to be at the end of Act 2. So then I plot it out to kind of bring us back, taking all that new stuff in. And I write it. And again, I don't expect to be exactly where I want, but I know that's the direction I'm going, and changes will happen. And by the time I get to the end of the second act, I will do the same thing. I'll look to where my ending is, see if I need to change my ending from what I've done, and then I'll plot out the third act and get us to the ending I want. So it allows a structure and creativity in the same process. And it's worked out pretty well for me. I've done all my books that way. And I don't know if other people do. I don't know what other writers do. I'm a comic book writer that started writing prose and novels and screenplays. And, so there's always that comic feel to my work. There will always be chapters that feel like issues, at the end, everything takes place in this one thing. And, there's usually a hook to get you into the next chapter, and they're never too long. And so, my comic writing comes out naturally into my novels and stuff. So, and if you haven't read my novels, Blythe, The Trailer Park Night Rises, you can get it on Kindle right now. You can have it sent from Amazon, probably there in the next day or two. Don't forget, Crimson Sails 2 is on Kickstarter right now. We've already met our goal and succeeded by a lot, but you don't want to miss out on this. This is a fun, very adult book, but there's some amazing art in it. Our penciler on it, Art Voyager, is awesome. The covers there's so many amazing covers to choose from. So check that out. And remember to sign up for the mailing list for Obsidian Moon, because you don't want to miss out on the news. Like, I might do live writing nights where you can ask me about my process as I'm writing a chapter. The original Lucius Fogg book was written live on Twitter, as probably most of you know. So there's always that possibility that I'm going to sit down and do a live broadcast and write while I'm doing it. So, because I'm crazy that way. All right, guys, I need to get some food and watch Tournament of Champions tonight. Just if you're looking for other shows to check out, the things I'm watching right now, I am enjoying NCIS Origins. We call it Young Gibbs. It's on CBS, and it's a version of Gibbs, like Young Sheldon. But it's really Mike Frank's show, and the actor who plays Franks is awesome. He's actually married to Katie Lotz, who is White Canary or Dinah Lance in Legends of Tomorrow and Arrow. So that's kind of cool. We're watching The Pit on HBO Max. If you like medical dramas, god damn, that's a tough one, but it's good. We're watching Paradise on Hulu. We're watching Reacher, of course, which is, and got a couple more episodes of the new Spider-Man and Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. Absolutely love the artwork on that. Love what they're doing with that. So, all right, that's going to wrap it up. I'll probably pop back up here next Sunday. So if you got some time, come chat with me, and have a great week, folks. Take care of yourselves. Remember to drink lots of water and be good. Dustin, I hope you're feeling better. Ed, it's great seeing you. Triple B, glad you could make it. Krypton, always great to have you come by. So y'all have a good night, and I will see you next time. Take care, everybody.